my friends, welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Heidi and I am your resident full-time corporate girly, overtime book girly, part-time YouTube girly. I do my best to do all the bookish content that you can imagine out there, but honestly just still living a realistic lifestyle. Following on that realistic lifestyle, we are going to be talking about my reading journal. Life is busy. There are all these people out there who had their reading journal posted January 1st. Could not be me. I wish it were, but currently it is not. I am not there yet. And I'm actually still currently working on my 2025 reading journal, but I want to do a full recap of my 2024 reading journal. Finally finished all the statistics and kind of my wrap-up pages, and I'm pretty proud of them for a first-time reading journal and definitely want to be sharing that. My reading journal I did a little bit different from most people's. I knew going into last year, there was no way I was going to be filling an entire journal for 1 year's worth of reading content. I had just gotten back into reading, and while last year was a great reading year with 86 books that I completed, I'm not somebody who's gonna like go and journal every single book that I read. So there was no way I was going to fill over 100 pages of this reading journal. And so how I did it was the first half of this reading journal is 2024, the second half is 2025. So obviously the first half is complete and I'd like to share that with you, but pretty soon here I will be posting my full 2025 spread. So it'll be the same journal, different content though. And I also did something pretty interesting with the beginning of this journal that I haven't seen too many people do. What I did was basically created a catalog of challenges, trackers, TBR, series trackers, etc. in the beginning of this that could be recycled year over year. So that's about the first 25% maybe of this. And then the next 25% is 2024 content. And then the last 50% I have completely filled and plotted out for 2025, which is really, really exciting. Also, the older I'm getting, I kind of am just realizing that my wardrobe is basically a hodgepodge between Emily Gilmore and Chandler Bing. Why is that? Why? I don't even watch Gilmore Girls. Why do I look like Grandma Gilmore? I am a Chandler Bing absolute lover till the day I die. I will love Chandler Bing. I like the way he dresses, so I'm not really upset that I kind of have the sweater vest game going. Yeah, on camera, I'm really just starting to notice it's Chandler Bing. All I need is the pearl necklace too, Emily Gilmore. I'd be set. While we go through my reading journal, I will be chatting through a couple things. Now, the reading journal, to be quite honest with you, it's good for a first-time reading journal. It did what it needed to do. It's not great. And I say that because looking back, I definitely was just kind of, you could tell in the beginning, I just wanted to do a reading journal. There was no pressure. I wasn't going to be posting about it. It was just strictly for me. And it was kind of a way for me to encourage myself to read more and to keep track of it. I'm somebody who I can jump on a bandwagon really, really fast, but if I'm not staying engaged, I will fall off just as quickly. And reading was one of those things that I really wanted to get back into, but I knew if I didn't hold myself accountable and track it somehow, there was no way that I was going to be sticking with it. And I have a very extensive physical TBR, so I knew that it was imperative financially to keep up with the books that I was buying and stay motivated to keep reading. So you'll see in my 2024 journal in the beginning, I was just kind of putting spreads together, keeping it pretty basic because I knew if I just didn't do it then, I wasn't going to ever do it. You could tell at the end of my 2024 journal that things start to get a little bit more decorative and cutesy and more planned out, and that was intentional. By then I knew I was definitely going to be continuing and doing a 2025 spread. So that was at the end of last year and I was already thinking ahead to what I wanted to do this year. So the spreads do get better and I'm already so excited about my 2025 journal because I took everything that I learned from 2024, spreads that I loved, spreads that I never used, spreads that were cute, unnecessary, but I definitely still want to do. And I'm going to be taking all that I've learned and moving it to my 2025 journal. So I hope that this helps you as you go into either planning your 2025 journal or taking inspiration and doing a journal for the first time. There is no pressure. There are so many cute reading journals online, whether you go on Pinterest or YouTube, and they are absolutely adorable. And I love that. I absolutely love that. But it's okay if your reading journal is not the most aesthetic journal out there. It's okay if your journal period is not the most aesthetic journal out there. Like, it's better to just be writing than to be writing perfection. It's better to be doing a reading journal than doing it to perfection and And for some of us, that means never starting. Like if you can do your reading journal cute and fun and aesthetic and really just put in the time and effort, more power to you, truly. But also, I feel like there are a lot of us who feel like if we can't be that good, if we can't be at that level, we're just never going to start. And so I'm here to de-influence you. You do not need the best markers. You do not need the best pens. You don't even need colors. If you just want to do a black and white journal, go for it. You don't have to do book printouts and like add pictures. You don't have to do that. Just write the book names that you achieve. Do a black and white graph. It is totally okay to keep it simple, especially your first year doing a reading journal. Now, I did use colors and everything for my first reading journal, but again, you're gonna go into it and go, that one's not as cute as some others that I've seen. And that is, I'm not embarrassed, like that's okay. Like it was cute for me at the time and it did what it needed to do. Now, moving forward, because I'm going to be creating this content and because I am actually very artsy, I have a great time with it, I want to prioritize that for myself. I want to take more time on my reading journal, be more diligent about monthly spreads, be more creative with it. It's a good creative outlet for me. Last year, it was strictly strategic. I knew that keeping your journal would keep me on track to read. This year, it's keeping me on track to read, but it's also a creative outlet for me. And it's just brought me a lot of joy putting it together. It's my quiet time, it's my brain off time. I can put a YouTube video on and just kind of zone and be happy with what I'm doing and just kind of fills my cup. All that being said, do what you need to do. Your journal does not need to be the cutest thing out there. I'm just proud of you for doing a journal at all. And so I hope that if you are super artistic, you have fun watching this video. And if you are not super artistic, you know, I hope this brings all the videos down that you've seen a level to where you're like, this is feasible for me. I can do this. I can have a good time doing this and it's not going to be super overwhelming. I don't have to be the best of the best. I just have to do what works for me. Anyways, I would love to see at the end of this, if any of you are inspired to start your very first reading journal, find me on Instagram and DM me. I'll leave my link below. I want to see what you guys came up with, even if it's something super simple. I'm so proud of you. It's the beginning of the year. This is the best time to do it. It is never too late to start. I'm posting this in February and I've only finished about halfway of my 2025 journal. So keep that in mind. There is no rush. Go at your own pacing. Use the materials that you have. Nobody is judging you. Do what makes you happy and just get it done. If it's what you want to do it. Stop putting it off. And you don't need to be this level of perfection that is portrayed on social media. It is okay to do what you are capable of doing, whatever level that is. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me grow my channel. I'm relatively new to the booktube community, and honestly, it's just where I feel like I'm thriving the most. I have less followers and subscribers here than on other platforms, but I'm enjoying this type of content more long form, more personal, more down to earth. I don't know, it's a great community here and I'm having a lovely time, and I hope you find a safe little corner here, whether you love to read or you just enjoy bookish content or just want some cozy vibes. I hope that you find it here and I hope to see you around. Okay, my friends, this is my reading journal. As you can tell, she's getting pretty thick. She won't close on her own. But this is the Primrosia brand. You can get this on Amazon. They have it internationally, so no matter where you live. This is a really great reading journal option. I love this one because the pages are really thick, so even if you use a strong pen or marker, it won't bleed through the pages. So I've used many different types of highlighters, markers, and pens and like permanent markers on here, and all of them work great with no bleeding. So this is definitely, once I fill this one, I'll buy this type of journal again. But again, we're just going to go through the first half of this journal, which is the completed portion. So I have this nice cover page here. I have this quote from George R.R. Martin, which I really liked. 2024 was the year of the dragon for me, for sure. I read so many different types of dragon fantasy, so I wanted to have something that was similar to a dragon tarot card. So instead of the bookworm, we have the book dragon. Next, we have my rating system. This is something that I wanted to keep consistent throughout the year, so I wanted somewhere that I could go back and look so that at the end of the year, my end of year statistics would be as accurate as possible. So I have my 5-star down to 1-star. DNFs I don't give stars to, so there is a level below the 1-star, and that is the DNF. But then I also have my entire physical library here. So I did these little cutouts. I used these little X-Acto knives just to kind of cut along the lines. It was really helpful to use this like metal ruler to cut. So I definitely recommend getting one of these and not a plastic one if you are looking to do these little cutout windows. But how I organized my library was every time I buy a book, I will write the book down in here. So currently we're sitting at roughly 377 physical books, which is crazy. A lot of these are also my classics and my college books because I was a classics student. So these are not all fiction and fantasy, unfortunately, but I would just track them here as I bought them, and then I'll fill in this bar if I've read them. So this is a good example of books that I've read versus not read. Halfway filled ones are my DNFs. When I made this, I did about 600 or so slots. So this is something I wanted to be able to fill out over the span of a couple years. The first half of this book is 2024, the second half is 2025, but I still fill out this section through it all. Next is my series tracker. This is one of the spreads I don't like, not necessarily because the trackers themselves, which I do, but I don't like the colors. I did kind of mess up this top bar and I was just like, whatever, let's just keep moving with it. I honestly just haven't kept up with this. I wrote down every single series that I own, or the books that I own from those series. That was kind of how I decided what to put on this tracker. This is honestly just a page I never look at. I might include it in a future reading journal just because I think it is very pleasing to look at, but I don't think I need every single series that I own or have ever read. I think I should only put series that I have in progress. So that's something I would do a little bit differently in the future. Then I have my Hall of Fame authors. These are authors over 2 years that I'll kind of fill out. So these are authors that are just kind of like auto-buy authors for me, or authors where I've really just generally enjoyed everything that they've written and I always have a good time. So some of these are like guilty pleasure authors, others are just truly authors that I think are so good and maybe are ones that everyone should read. And then when I started this journal, I wanted a way to track books from my past because I'd had 2 really big reading years before I ever made this journal, and I wanted a way to kind of reflect on those years, even though I didn't necessarily have a full reading journal's worth of content from those years. So I have a bookshelf of fame. I am still filling this one out as I go. So this is my top tier 5-star reads. Not every 5-star read goes in this section, but my favorites of the 5 stars definitely go here. So this will be a fun one to look back on in the years to come. It's just a snapshot of the years that I have within this journal. I also included my childhood favorites here, because I think this is just like a really sweet, nostalgic thing to look back on. All of my favorite books when I was probably under the age of 10, I'd say. My favorite read-alouds that my parents would do for us. My favorite books that I would borrow over and over from the library. So just something really cute. And I also kind of wanted a way to track childhood books that I loved, so that maybe in the future when I have family, we can take a look at this and try to find some of these books. I'm sure a lot of them don't get published anymore, but these are ones that I feel like were just core memories for me and really established my love for reading. So yeah, this is just a really sweet thing to kind of look back on. I tried to make it fun. It kind of has like a Scooby-Doo vibe, which is really cute. There's like the little flowers here. But yeah, I had a good time with this one. And this is one I still look back pretty fondly on. I won't do this one again in future reading journals. This is just one where I wanted one place in one of my journals at least to look back on childhood reads. And then same thing here, these are kind of my teenage throwbacks, my favorite books that I read when I was a teenager. I'd say a lot of these were like one level below YA reads, but so many of these books are ones that really got me into reading, especially fantasy. We have Kiss of Deception, which is part of the Remnant Chronicles, Heir of Poseidon, Heir of Triton, like those series, so good. Dark Hills Divide, this was one I saw when I went home to my childhood house and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that book. So this was just another really fun place to look. My mom actually, when I was putting this together, she would track every book that we got at the library. I was homeschooled for about 10 years when I was younger. So she like cataloged everything that we got from the library, which was super helpful when putting this spread together because I could just go back and I don't know, it's just such a nostalgic thing looking back at these and seeing titles that I had forgotten, and then I was like Googling them and looking at the covers. I'm like, this is so cool. So yeah, these were just some of my favorites growing up. And then we have my Roaring 20s spread. Basically is comprised of every book that I read when I finally fell back in love with reading, which of course started with ACOTAR. So I basically just logged every book that I read about 2 years ago. Last year I read 86 books, but the year before that and the year before that I read anywhere between 10 and 20 books. So I was just able to put them all here and track them. It's so fun seeing how my reading style has developed. We've gone from Boxcar Kids to Kiss of Deception to ACOTAR and Haunting Adeline. Like, how did that progress that way? I literally couldn't tell you, but it's still a fun thing to look back on. So I really enjoy this kind of spread. All of these cutouts, I'll put the dimensions for. I just printed them out as they would fit in this type of tracker, but I'll make sure to include the dimensions in the description if that's helpful for you. This journal, I don't know if you could see it on the video, but there are very light dots here to help with measurements, which was super helpful. Then again, this part of the journal, as with everything before, is something I can kind of recycle over time. So I wanted to do different bookish bingos, which I think are so fun. So here I actually included a Barnes & Noble gift card for myself once I finish a full bingo, which I haven't done yet. But this is just like a really general bookish bingo. Finish a series, read a children's book, read all of an author's book, read a debut book, laugh out loud at a book, finish an old DNF. I just did that one, which was so satisfying. But this is just a fun thing for me to kind of use, maybe even as like a TBR challenge if I'm kind of stuck in a rut and don't know what to read. So this covers kind of everything. And then I have fantasy bingo here and romance bingo here. Something that I tried to do was I tried to only fill out 1 square per book. So if something were an urban fantasy with gods and goddesses set in the underworld with fated mates, I could only fill out 1 of these. So each of these squares counts as a separate book. And the reason I did that was, so I have my fiction bingo here as well, but then I have a bonus bingo. So once I run out of these, I can fill this one out as like a final thing. Originally, I was only gonna get that gift card if I filled this one out, but I don't know if I'm gonna fill this one out this year because I also have my yearly bingo, which is a little bit different, but it's kind of nice and really satisfying just to have different things to go to if I don't have anything to fill out for my yearly bingo kind of scorecard. I love this spread so much. This is my Around the World in 80 Books page. I thought it's so charming, like kind of just a fun spin on the idea of the book. But basically, every time I read a book in a different country, I'll write down the country and the book that it was set in. I'll only do this once, so even though I've read several books that are set in Ireland or in Italy, I can only choose one. So usually I just choose the first one. I'm only 13 countries in, technically, but this year I'm trying to be better about reading more historical fiction, which I think will help check a lot of these off. This is one I'll probably come back to even in a few years just because it's such a blank spread and it's kind of a satisfying place to look at all the kind of travel books that I read. Next, we also have an A to Z challenge. I've mostly filled this out. Once I started filling this out pretty quickly, I decided I was only going to write books that I actually liked here because some of these aren't even books that I enjoyed. I just wrote them down because they checked off the letter. So this is a fun one. I've seen a lot of people do this for like their yearly spreads, which is super fun. I just thought this would be a good one to use and kind of recycle year over year, so I'm not rushing through it. Now also, this is less of a challenge, but more of just a tracker that I wanted to do for all the classics. I was a classics and philosophy student, so while I read a lot of books in college, I've kind of strayed from classics since getting out of college. Honestly, as you can tell, I've not done too well with filling this one out or even reading any of these books, but this is something I'd want to get into more in my 2025 goal than I think I had last year. And now we're getting into my 2024 spread. So this is everything that I wanted to achieve or challenges to achieve in 2024. I was like definitely in my fall girl era all year last year. I live in Texas, but I'm from the Midwest. There's just nothing like Midwest autumn and Midwest winters, and you just don't get that here in Texas. So I was definitely a little homesick all last year, and I just wanted my journal to reflect something that made me happy. And so I just thought this was so cute. I got some of these stickers on Etsy. I'll try to link the shops that I bought them from in the description below. But I just love this quote: reading gives us some place to go when we have no escape from where we are. And then she read books as one would breathe air to live. I don't know, this is just so cute. It's, now that I'm looking at it, it's very Gilmore Girls. I don't watch Gilmore Girls, so honestly I couldn't tell you. But I was trying to just go for like cozy, dark academia, light academia even, like kind of witchy vibes. I don't know, I just thought it was super cute. This is where I tracked all the books that I read in 2024. So I would just kind of fill out the bookshelves as I read. So there are 86 books here. I tried to color them in the way that the spines on the covers look, which is okay. I don't love it. I actually liked it better when the spines weren't colored in. I think there's just too many colors going on here. So this is definitely a spread I would love to do for 2025, but the spines I'm going to color in a little bit differently. I think next year or later this year in 2025, I'll fill out the spines based off of the rating. So each star rating will be associated with a different color, and I think that will look better. But I do think this is really cute. I like the plants. I own so many plants that I just wanted something that reflected my personality a little bit, and I just thought this was really cute. Next, we have my reading log. I have a couple thoughts on this one. I think this is really cute, and I overall like it. However, I didn't think I was going to read as much as I did last year, so once I kind of overread through the 64 slots here, I just kind of stopped filling it out, and I didn't really see a point in continuing with it because I didn't give myself extra space. And because of that, I didn't track the pages or the stars, and the genre, honestly, it's just like not as important to me in this type of spread. I do like the format one where I did purple for books and blue for audiobooks. As a visual, that's just kind of nice to see the pacing of what I was reading versus listening to. This is a spread I definitely plan to use in 2025. I'm just going to give myself a little bit extra space, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. I think I'll keep the format, but I'm going to get rid of the genre section and the page section too, because the pages don't even associate with the audiobook length. And so it was kind of hard to calculate that at the end of the year. I was inspired by the spread by Rach Reads. I'll make sure she's linked below if you want to go check out her reading journals. They are so cute, but this is one I definitely recommend. Just make sure you're catering it to what you actually want to look back on, not necessarily what you're seeing on Pinterest or on YouTube, because we all have different preferences. Next, we have the 24 books I wanted to prioritize and read in 2024. I did achieve all of these. This was such a fun one. This was my favorite one to fill out all year long. I was always so excited to come and see my progress on this. So this is what I'm doing in 2025, the 25 books that I want to prioritize in 2025, which I did make a video on if you want to go check that out. I'm not a huge fan of the covers here. I have an idea for 2025 that I'm super excited to share once that video goes up. That looks a lot better, but overall, this is still a really fun way to track and kind of fill in the books as you go. And then my TBR cart, these were all the books that I went into 2024 that were on my physical shelf that I hadn't read. So I wanted to fill these out as I went. I read a couple of them. I didn't read all of them. 2024 was a huge book buying year for me, so admittedly, a lot of these got put on the back burner. And this is why. I decided halfway through the year I needed a place to log all the books that I bought, and I actually ran out of space, so I had to kind of tape in this flap of a note card to keep drawing and filling in books that I was buying. I do not plan to buy this many books this year. This was kind of outrageous. They look great, and I've read a lot of them. As you can see, I filled in so many, but there's still so many here that I didn't get around to reading. And while I'm so happy to have them, my goal for 2025 is to pace myself a little bit more. But if you want a place to track books that you're buying, this spread was one of my favorites to fill out because I would just kind of go like this. Whatever I would land on, I would read, and it was great. I definitely recommend this type of spread. I also really like these color combinations, more dark neutral. And then this was my 2024 reading bucket list. This is when I got so close. I honestly just didn't have a time to do rereads. Like I said, bought so many books that rereading a book was just not in my best interest. And then because of this, clearly I failed my 1 month buying ban. I tried probably 6 months, and it didn't work. But everything else I achieved, and this was just kind of a fun one. If I was, like I said, stuck in a rut, not really sure what to do, be like, oh, well, I have an H.D. Carlton book left. Why don't I go read that one? And it just kind of inspired me when I needed an idea of what to read. And this is also just a good type of tracker to do when you're feeling like you're in a slump, especially towards the end of the year. I know a lot of us get slumpy around the holidays. This is such a good one to have during that time because you can look back and you're like, oh, all right, I'm 1 or 2 away. Let's just push through. Let's do this. And it got me out of so many reading slumps having this, so I really liked it. This is my anticipated releases page. This one I filled out at the beginning of the year, so I printed out all of my top anticipated releases for 2024, and then as I bought them, I would put the empty stars below, and then I would fill it out as I read them. So obviously I own all of these books now, but I did not get to reading all of them. This is one I'm keeping for 2025, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm not going to do so many because I'm trying to buy less books. And I'm just going to pencil in the titles, and I'll only put the picture on if I buy it, because maybe I just don't end up wanting to read that one anymore. Maybe the ratings don't end up being as good as I thought they were. And then I can just fill it in with something else. Overall, this is a really fun spread, and it gives you something to look forward to throughout the year. Okay, this one is gross. I don't like this one, to be fully honest with you, for a lot of reasons. This was so much fun to fill out. I did enjoy this part. Anything in purpley pink is a book, anything in blue is an audiobook. So I would fill out how many pages or how long the audiobook was, but like I said, I ran out of space, so I had to kind of glue this little note card in and keep filling it out that way, which was fine. This monthly tracker I liked, but I just didn't like how it was laid out. It's really small, and this was something like you can only fill out at the end of the month, and I just really didn't pay attention to it, and sometimes I would have to go and fill out like 3 or 4 months worth of books because I just had forgotten about it. The genre tracker, I did not look at this once, and I like completely stopped filling it out. I read so much fantasy last year, and I only have 5 fantasy books here. That is completely wrong. This is genre tracker is not something I'm going to be doing in 2025. I'm such a mood reader that I read so many different genres that it doesn't really matter to me what genre I'm reading. I don't have a genre goal. This was fine. This works for a lot of people, just didn't work for me. I thought it would be fun to log all the books that I DNF'd as well, which in theory is cute, but in actuality for me, once I DNF a book, I don't think about it again, so I don't even think about it long enough to put it into my reading journal. I might do something like this in 2025, but in a different format that's a little bit easier, and I don't have to put duration or anything. I don't know, overall this DNF section, great in theory, but for me, it just didn't work. I will be keeping this though and doing it on a larger scale. Then I tracked my book club reads. This was so fun. I started a book club with my friends and family kind of in June of last year, I think. So we didn't get to read a ton of books, but we met every month and a half or so. So this was a fun one just to put my rating here, the theme that we did. So for None of This Is True, we all wore like all denim outfits. Happy Place, we did a pool day. We did dinner out. We did pumpkin painting. So we just did some fun activities, and then I just kind of recapped what we kind of thought of the book overall. Next year, I will be continuing with this spread, but I want to also include what the group's rating of the book was, because this is just my rating, and it'd be kind of fun to see what the average was overall. I also did a 24-hour readathon in 2024, which was crazy. I definitely recommend if you want to challenge yourself. This was kind of a fun spread to recap. I read 2 full books, and then I read parts of 3 other books, so I included those a little bit smaller, and then just kind of walked through, like, I read Kitchen Confidential. I read 50 pages of that. It was a good palate cleanser. I did this as an audiobook for walks and meals. I did this one, kind of wasn't really feeling it, DNF'd it at the time. And then overall, just a little summary of how I felt about doing a 24-hour readathon. I also did an audiobook section here. I listened to A Little Life and it fell out, so I don't know where it went. But this was also a really fun one to do, just to look back at all the audiobooks that I listened to. So many of these I am keeping and will listen to again. Others, kind of like Dune, I don't think I'll ever listen to it or read it again, but it was one that I wanted to experience at least. So that's what some of these were. So kind of my favorites down to my least favorites. All of these were so good though. Then I did my monthly favorites. So these were not my top 12 books of the entire year. For example, June. I only read 3 books in June, and all of them were 3 stars. So clearly none of those were my favorite books of the year, but I put my favorite book at least of that month. So that was kind of how I organized this one. And then here was my best of 2024. So these were my top 12 books of the year, kind of just reflecting back when I put this spread together at the end of 2024. I was like, okay, like what would my top 12 be, and then what would my top 3 be, and what would my number 1 be? So lessons in chemistry, shocking to me, but that was my number 1. I feel like I learned so much about being a woman and just finding strength within yourself through this book. It was not what I was expecting it to be. It has a little bit of something for everybody. It has a little bit of like, I don't want to say magical realism, but I just had such a great time. All of these books are books I would recommend to anybody. This is just a nice one to look back on if I ever want to do rereads. And yeah, it'd be kind of nice after a few years to compare like my top 12 reads of each year. And then my book awards. This one was so much fun to put together. I just got to be super creative about what types of awards I would give out for my books. So I have When the Moon Hatched was the best cover. The best romance was Just for the Summer. My favorite fantasy was Quicksilver, which might sound weird like compared to like Throne of Glass. But Throne of Glass, I had given so many other awards. I kind of just felt like I needed to get something else in there. And the reason I gave Quicksilver the award for my favorite fantasy was because it caught me so off guard, and I did the audiobook and it was so good. So it also won like my favorite audiobook of the year. My favorite female character was Elizabeth Zott from Lessons in Chemistry. We have Rowan for my main male character. We have Carrion as the sidekick. I loved him so much. Lysandra as my favorite female friend. Fenris as my favorite male friend. We've got Marcellus the octopus from Remarkably Bright Creatures. And then Spice. Honestly, the slow burn in Serpent in the Wings of Night was so good, so that was why I put that there. Favorite comfort read was obviously the Barbarian Alien series. And then happiest are The Apprentice to the Villain, Assistant to the Villain. Saddest was Kingdom of Ash, like saddest but so good. Like there's just such a difference between this type of sad and like a little life sad, and for me this one won out. Most surprising was Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I put that one off for so long and I'm so disappointed that I did. Most frustrating for me was Iron Flame. The miscommunication in this was just absolutely insane. I just could not get in the headspace to read this book. It took me months to finish. Nobody is more upset about that than I am, but that was my most frustrating read looking back even to this day. Audiobook was Quicksilver. My favorite historical fiction was The Women. I learned so much through this book and went like down a historical fiction research rabbit hole after this one. This was my Kristen Hanna awakening, and I've read 3 of her books now since reading this one. It was such a good time. And then my favorite new author was Abby Jimenez. I just discovered her last year and my life is forever changed. I also included Six Scorched Roses as the book with the best quotes. I love Carissa Broadbent's writing, but something about her writing in this novella was so beautiful and just like dark and dreary and eerie and really just, I don't know, it like got the wheels turning in my head. It was like poetry, but it wasn't trying to be poetic. I don't know, I just loved it. So it had some of the best quotes. I won't read them, but you're welcome to pause if you want to read these. I don't normally give novellas anything above 3-star if they're good. I gave this one 5 stars. That was just such an incredible little one to read. And then finally, our last spread of this video is my 2024 reading stats. Now, I'll be honest, by the end of this, I was just ready to be done. I was like, I just want to be able to like look back at my numbers super quickly. That's all. I didn't care if it was super cute. I do like the colors. I kind of like the neon theme here, which is kind of, I don't know, really outside of my comfort zone, but I've discovered I really like this like purpley blue. I've used it in so many spreads for 2025. But I just did like a nice little reflection, my average rating, which was a 4.01, which is crazy. I think for 2025, I'll be a little bit more careful about not giving books 5 stars right off the bat because I enjoyed them in the moment. Because looking back, there were so many 5-star reads that really aren't 5-star reads. I just liked it in the moment. And then 2 days later, I was like, no, like 4 stars. I used Storygraph to get all of these stats. I think Storygraph has much better statistics than Goodreads can ever do. Even if they actually decide one day to put in effort, I still think Storygraph is going to be better. So this was just kind of a fun one to look over. October was my best reading month with 12 books. I did 287 hours of audiobooks, which is insane. I only listen to audiobooks on my car ride to work, so that just really makes me think about a lot of things. 28,000 pages read, and then romance was my highest genre, and then fantasy was my second. This is a great example of why I don't think I'm going to be using that other tracker that I showed you for genres, because at the end of the year, this is all I need to know. And then my kind of comparison of physical books to audiobooks, and then I got a Kindle at the end of the year, and so I read 1 Kindle book, so I had to include that as digital. But yeah, that is all. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Okay. That is my 2024 journal completed, and then that was just a little sneak peek at what my 2025 journal will be, which is nearly complete, so I will be sharing that soon. But yeah, that is my 2024 reading journal. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for watching my reading journal video for 2024. Again, it was so much fun to do a reading journal for the first time. I honestly, starting last year, wasn't sure if I was even going to finish my 2024 reading journal for starters, and I didn't know if it was something I would do in 2025. I can tell you I am so excited to be wrapping up my 2025 reading journal spreads, and I'll be posting those soon, so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because I will be posting that pretty soon here. Again, no pressure to start your own journal, but if you think it's something that'll help hold you accountable, go ahead and do it. If you're not a journaler, that is okay. Have you heard of Storygraph? Better than Goodreads when it comes to your monthly and yearly statistics on reading. So fun. Half the statistics I put in here are basically just a duplicate of what I find in my Storygraph. So you do not have to use a journal. There are so many virtual platforms too that you can do something similar to this, and you don't actually have to own a physical book. So whatever your reason, I hope that you enjoyed this video and found some kind of inspiration in it to continue your reading this year and find encouragement to continue reading more books that you love, and I don't know, just be proud of what you've achieved. Keeping this journal really helped me feel good about what I accomplished this year when it came to reading. I never thought I would be where I am when it comes to the quantity of books that I'm reading, the variety of books that I'm reading, and also just being able to be creative when it comes to reading is so cool to me. I never thought I'd be making videos. I never thought I'd be doing a reading journal of all things. It's just been so fun. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support on my new channel, and I hope you have a fantastic reading month. Again, don't hesitate to reach out and send me some pictures of your first reading journal spreads. If this inspired you to start one, I would love to see it. It would just warm my heart. Thanks again for watching. I will see you next time. Love ya.